Well, our view has been for quite some time now that we were long overdue a dollar correction lower. And I think this is a proper full-blown dollar depreciation cycle. And this is due to a large number of factors. First, there is the fundamental factor that the dollar actually was at one point back in the midst of the pandemic crisis had reached really overvalued levels in excess of 20% based on our estimates, which is quite considerable from a historic perspective. Now, at the same time, what's been playing out right now, there are three additional factors that are very, very important for the dollar trade. The first one is what has happened with European politics. And I cannot emphasize enough that this has been a significant shift in the perception of how fiscal management in Europe is going to be implemented in the times of crisis. Right now, we're talking about risk sharing, which is something that it's definitely different, and it reduces to a large extent the redenomination risk. But at the same time, I think that the market has been sniffing this increase in the odds of a Joe Biden victory. Now, let me be very clear here. Joe Biden is not per se negatively for markets. It represents a return to conventional policies, but at the same time, a number of policies that he's likely to enact. Most importantly, the increase in the corporate tax rate is likely to employ a halting of flows or even outflow, if you like, from the US, which are likely to put further pressure on the dollar.
Vasileios, let me just stress test that scenario. What would be the arguments for turning that on its head? If we have a second wave reassertion of COVID, if we have a renewed crisis, perhaps running into October, does money go to the dollar as a result of that, or does the money run away from the dollar because we've obviously seen a lot of the current COVID risks in the United States?
I think to a certain extent there is going to be some return of the money going to the dollar, but I think it will likely be to a slightly lesser extent than the ones that we saw back in February and the beginning of March. And that's likely because, unfortunately, the US administration, at least so far, has proved that we're really in the midst of a large number of incoherent policies and not that responsible policies. And at the same time, if you look at the rest of the world, I think the rest of the world has really had a good lesson. Right now, governments know more, citizens know more. Yes, there are pockets of increases, but nonetheless, I think the response, the political response, especially from Europe, is going to be faster and it's going to be far more effective.